Hello, and welcome to our community webinar. My name is Patty Camacho. I am with the Seattle Department of Neighborhoods, and I will be facilitating this discussion. Before we begin, I'd like to mention a few housekeeping items. If you are not speaking, please mute your computer or your phones. Live captioning is available, which you can access by clicking on the More Options button next to the red X button at the bottom of your screen. This webinar will be recorded and shared. To receive a copy of the presentation, please contact us at COVID-19 Community Webinars at seattle.gov or call 206-684-0464. The presentation will also be available on our blog front porch. You can type in questions you may have using the chat feature. Questions for a speaker will be asked directly after their presentation. We will also have an opportunity for more questions at the end during the Q&A portion. I will read out any questions I see in the chat and ask that answers be provided audibly and not typed within the chat. There will also be opportunities for phone questions after each speaker. You can press *6 to unmute your phone to ask questions, or use the Raise Your Hand feature, and you will be called upon to speak your question during these times. If you are calling in from a phone and would like to use the Raise Hand feature, please press *3 to virtually raise your hand. All links from the presentation will be available through a file transfer download you may have already seen on your screen. If you don't see the file, please go to your upper left corner and select File tab, then select Transfer. One of those links is a survey we have created for your feedback. Please help us improve these webinars by filling in that survey. Today, we will be hearing from King County Executive's Office, Seattle Fire Department, Seattle Office of Sustainability and Environment, and the Seattle Office of Planning and Community Development. To begin our presentation, I'd like to introduce the Peat Patch Community Garden Program Supervisor for the Seattle Department of Neighborhoods, Kenya Freddy. Kenya, are you there?
Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm here. Hi, Patty. Thank you for
Welcome.
having me.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kenya Frady, and I'm the P-Patch Program Supervisor for the Seattle Department of Neighborhoods. I'd like to start by thanking everyone for joining us today. This webinar is a collaboration with various departments within the City of Seattle and King County. There are a couple of items I'd like to highlight for you. The first one is my program, the P-Patch program, which prioritizes populations underserved by the program for plot assignments. The priority groups include individuals who identify as Black or African American, Indigenous, Native, Latinx or Hispanic, households making 30% or below Seattle area median income, immigrants and refugees, people who need to garden in an accessible raised bed, and groups that serve seniors and children and youth up to age 24. If interested in registering for a plot, please feel free to call us at 206-684-0264, or you can also sign up online. The second highlight I'd like to share with you is on Thursday, August 20th, Mayor Durkin announced the expansion of the City of Seattle testing at the Chief Sealth High School Athletic Complex in Westwood neighborhood of West Seattle. While the city continues to urge anyone with symptoms to get tested, the West Seattle Bridge closure has presented a significant challenge for residents on the peninsula. The Chief Sealth location is key to advancing testing equity for the community and the city. This location is adding on the existing locations that we mentioned previously, including the Aurora testing site in North Seattle, the Sodo testing site, and the Rainier Beach testing site. A reminder that all COVID-19 testing provided at these sites are free, regardless of citizenship or immigration status, but you must first register online or over the phone. You may register at seattle.gov/COVID-19 testing or call 206-684-2489. And then the final highlight I have for you today is on Wednesday, August 26th, the City of Seattle surpassed $19 million in federal aid for ongoing food assistance for Seattle residents. Mayor Durkin has directed an additional $9 million toward grocery vouchers, $670,000 towards the Community Food Fund, and over $2 million towards Seattle food banks. For these updates and more, please visit the Mayor's Office COVID-19 resource page at http://www.seattle.gov/mayor/COVID-19. We'd like to thank you all for letting us share this information we have and hope you will share with us your questions, thoughts, and concerns. Remember, you can type questions in on these or other topics. I'm going to pass it back to Patty now. Thank you and stay healthy, everyone.
Thank you very much, Tanya. We do have her email on the slide currently. If anyone has any P-patch related questions, feel free to reach out to her or to us at our COVID-19 community webinars at seattle.gov email. Moving on, I would now like to introduce Callie Knight and Brad Finegood with King County Public Health, Seattle, King County. Callie, are you there?
Yeah, hey Patty, can you hear me okay?
We can hear you great, thank you.
Okay, awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday. Glad to be here on the webinar. I just have a few updates before, on behalf of the exec's office, before Brad launches into our public health updates. So wanted to let everyone know my team that's been managing our mask distribution effort. We recently on Monday announced a partnership with all of the Safeway stores in King County. So all 59 stores in King County now have cloth masks at all the check stands. So if you or anyone in your family still needs access to reusable masks, you can visit any of the Safeway stores in the city of Seattle or in any other cities you might find yourself in across King County. And that is a great partnership with our union UFCW local 21, I believe, that represents all of the essential grocery workers and the Safeway grocery stores in King County. So just wanted to flag that if you still need those, you can now go to any of those stores. I do have updates for folks on the call who are interested in the Elliott modular site. So we finally have a projected move-in date for the Catholic Community Services shelter residents to move into that modular site. Our target date is September 22nd. But if you live close to the site, you might see some Catholic Community Services staffers and other staff who are working on finalizing the fire marshal the readiness of the site. So Catholic Community Services staff and other staff that are working to finalize the site, you may be seeing them on the site. So September 22nd is the projected move-in date. I will keep everyone who is interested and on my email listserv updated on whether or not that date has to change, but that is what we're thinking, September 22nd. And as a reminder, we have several shelter de-intensification sites all across the county. 3 are in the city of Seattle that King County is operating. The Elliott site is a partnership with Catholic Community Services, and then we also have 2 hotel leases in Lower Queen Anne, and I believe one of them is Catholic Community Services, and the other one is Salvation Army. And with that, I also want to flag that we are exploring lease extensions through the end of the year at those 2 hotel sites in Lower Queen Anne. And I had included that update in an email a couple of weeks back, but just wanted to verbally pass that along. We want to make sure that folks are still sheltered and housed individually and not in group housing through the end of the year while CARES Act funding is still available. So with that, I'm going to pass it along to my colleague Brad from Public Health Seattle King County, and then would be happy to answer any questions folks might have. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Kelly. Hi, everybody. Brad Feingood, Public Health, Seattle, King County. I don't know if you got the slide that I submitted, but either way, as Kelly said, it's super important the work that we're doing around homeless people living outdoors and engaging those folks in safe places to be to truncate the spread of COVID. As is the slide up right now, wanted to let everybody know that there is an active testing survey that's going on to test COVID antibodies in the community. And the purpose of that is to understand how many people in King County truly have been impacted by COVID, to see if there are folks and to understand if there are folks that have been asymptomatic, and what the spread of COVID really has looked like. And so on August 29th, tomorrow, between 10 and 5, in CTAC, there is open testing, and they'll just do a little trick. And it looks like they're passing out $20 grocery gift cards for people to get tested, and then results come in a couple of weeks. The email and the phone. So we wanted to let people know that that is going on tomorrow, and to be able to pass that on to your networks. I think I have one more slide, possibly, maybe. Yeah, great. Thank you so much. As Callie was talking about the need for shelter de-intensification, one other intervention that we have put out there community-wide is isolation and quarantine facilities. And so on our Public Health Insider blog, there is a video up that you just go to pinsider.com. There's a video up that shows what it's like for people in an isolation and quarantine. Really shows off all of the work that we have done to make those facilities hospitable, and just a great place for people to be when they have COVID. And so wanted to put that out for the community at large. I think it's a great video, and it's a great resource. Secondly, also on our Public Health Insider blog that folks might be interested in, earlier this week, our public health officer, Dr. Jeff Duchin, new update for folks talking about sort of the status of COVID. Additionally, upcoming flu season, why it's so important for people to get vaccines for the flu season, and a lot of. Make sure in the Public Health Insider blog you check that out. And then lastly, I just wanted to continue to point people to our dashboards. The Seattle Times had an article earlier this week about a surge in COVID cases at within the people who are living unsheltered, and at the Salvation Army shelter at Harborview Medical Center, next to Harborview Medical Center. And so we have a homeless dashboard that is up when you go to public health, kingcounty.gov/COVID, as was put up earlier. And you can see the data that is up there regarding people who are living unsheltered and unhoused, the homeless population. There is a whole dashboard that you can look at and see the cases, where they're happening, and what some of the demographics are around people living unsheltered. We've done a tremendous amount of work to increase our testing within that population also. And then lastly, on our dashboard, on our public health dashboard, there is our, among other things, there's our daily dashboard. There's a new video up there which helps people read the dashboard, because sometimes it's not super intuitive. But with our case counts, remain in the they are lower than our highest amount, but they are still significantly greater case counts than our lowest counts in mid-June. Our case counts in the last 24 hours, or as of yesterday, there's been 128 positive cases in King County, with a total of 19,177 cases since COVID was first detected in King County. There are 18 new hospitalizations, bringing that total up to 2,222 and 2 new unfortunate deaths. Just a reminder that you can separate that information by city in different regions of the county, by number of people tested, positive, hospitalizations, and where that how that relates to the rest of the county at large. So with that, I will stop talking, and if there's any questions or whatnot.
Thank you very much, Callie and Brad. At this time, I'd like to open it up if there are any questions for either Callie or Brad. You can hit *6 on your phones to unmute or unmute your microphones. You can also type in questions into the chat feature and I can read them out loud for you. We do have a question from Mike D. Which shelter is moving to there? I have toured it. Mike, do you, I don't know the context of where there is.
That had to do with Ms. Knight's comment about the Elliott shelter.
Callie, did you get that?
Yeah, so Mike, I'm not sure I understand your question still. Are you asking what congregate shelter is moving into the modulars on Elliott?
Yeah, I think you said that there was a shelter moving into there.
Yeah, so this is a group of single adult men who were currently prior to COVID in a congregate shelter that was operated by Catholic Community Services. So it is, I think it's a small, I think it's maybe less than 40 individuals who will be able to fit in those modulars.
Okay, I was just looking for a name of it, but that's fine.
Thank you, Mike, for that question. Are there any other questions for Brad or Callie?
Hi, this is Wang Wang. We actually had a question that was asked in our last webinar, but it was towards the end, so we didn't have our presenters on. If I can ask that now, the question was, can we get a better feedback loop on how people are catching COVID-19?
Yeah, hi, this is Brad. There's a lot that we know and there's a lot that we don't know. And if folks want to take a look at our health officer's video that I put up earlier, he addresses that in there. Some of what we know, some of what we don't know. We know that there's been a fair amount of transmission at big gatherings and weddings and parties and where people are not taking proper precautions. And so, but Dr. Duchin addresses that in there. If I may, real quick too, there was 2 pieces of news I want to really quickly touch on. The CDC came out with some information yesterday saying that people shouldn't be tested if they're asymptomatic, and they walked that back today. We want people to get tested if they've been exposed to people who have COVID or if they're starting to show symptoms. We want people to get tested as soon as possible. We know that testing is one of our best weapons, and that is why we've made testing super available community-wide. So we want to encourage the people to get tested as soon as possible right away. So I just wanted to be able to address that.
Thank you, Brad. Yes, very important testing. Very, very important. We do encourage any and everyone to get tested. Are there any other questions for Brad or Callie? COVID or health related?
Hey, Patty, this is Callie. Can I just say one thing? I just put in the chat that for those of you who have dialed in, just my email is incorrect on this slide, and I just want to flag if you are interested in signing up for the weekly newsletter that I send out. It's actually just CNIGHT, CKNIGHT at kingcounty.gov.
Thank you very much for that correction, Callie. We apologize for that. I will have one of my colleagues type that into the chat feature as well, and we will fix this accordingly in the future.
That's all good, Patty. I already typed it in.
Oh,
thanks.
Great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Callie. One last chance. Any other questions? You can hit *6 on your phones to unmute, or you can type them in to the chat feature. Okay, seeing none and hearing none, I think we're going to move on. Thank you, Callie, and thank you, Brad.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Patty.
Moving on, I would now like to introduce William Mays. He's the Public Affairs and Education and Outreach Advisor for the Seattle Fire Department. William, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Oh, great. First of all, thanks for having me and for having the fire department giving us a chance to share some updates. A little bit of COVID update, but also we wanted to share some information about some incendiary fires that we've been seeing more of more recently. So for the first slide, I'll just, if you don't mind, thanks. Yeah, so in general, we've seen a high increase in fire activity it's been in Rainier Avenue vicinity in the past few months. And we started tracking the string of fires around June 23rd, and they're still occurring. Most of the fires have happened in dumpster receptacles or to debris. However, there's been a couple of bigger fires that I just wanted to mention briefly. One of them was at, you may have heard about this already, seen this in the news, but the Rainier Farmer Market, which was actually hit 4 times recently, and there's been a lot of damage to that site in particular for some reason. That's been a target. And then also there's new construction site on Sturgis Avenue South, where it's brand new construction, 3-story buildings. And they were $5 million in damage to those from fire and from water damage as well. So and most of the fires, as the slide shows, they've occurred. They've started in the very early morning hours between midnight and 3 or 4 in the morning. So what happens is when there's a fire, we have fire investigators who go and investigate, and they'll decide if it's incendiary, and that just means that it was intentionally set or not. So they do the best they can to decide that. And then after they make a decision, they will contact Seattle Police Department Arson and Bomb Squad, and they are the ones who take it from that point. So we do not investigate after we determine the cause. And so those fires right now are being investigated by Seattle SPD Arson Bomb Squad. And as of now, no suspect has been identified. So part of this is, it's really important. And if you go to the next slide, part of this is, my focus is actually on education and outreach. And so, it's incendiary, intentionally set fires like this. There are some things that folks can do to just make sure that they're removing combustibles from their home or place of business. We talk about locking doors, windows, especially garages and carports if possible, cleaning up grass, weeds, anything that really can burn that's very close to the home. Just encouraging folks to just keep those clean. I will say this: none of these places have been occupied homes, so that's a good thing. These were places that were vacant at the time. I'm talking about the major fires. So, but still, we want folks to be mindful of that. If you do have dumpsters, recycle bins, try to secure those if at all possible, and keeping them away from buildings, from homes, also is very important. For businesses and for apartment buildings that have commercial business with Seattle Public Utilities, you can arrange to have them install locks for recycling and garbage dumpsters. And then keeping the just again shrubberies clear and away from doors, windows to improve visibility, and also to remove that potential fire hazard there. Lights, of course, this is something that is also something that folks can do, to installing lights, just to alert if there's someone comes by, it just shines a light on it, and that could be a deterrent as well. And finally, for inside homes, we always want to encourage, if there is a fire, we want to make sure everyone has working smoke alarms, make sure they're working, test them monthly, if they have batteries, change the batteries yearly, because that's going to be the first alert to a fire. So if there's a fire, the smoke alarm, of course, alert you so that you can get out safely, call 911 from a safe location. Ideally, folks have a fire escape plan as well, where you know that if there's a fire, you're going to get out, meet at this outside meeting place, and so everyone can be accounted for, and then call 911 once everyone is outside. And finally, if fire extinguishers are good tools, but make sure you know how to use one before you try to pick one up and start using it, of course. So, there are some. Right now, there's not a whole lot of training going on in this area, but there are some really good videos that show fire extinguisher training. Seattle Office of Emergency Management has a really good one. And we have one posted on our website as well, seattle.gov/fire. So that's just some information on that. We are providing updates on these most recent fires on our website, seattle.gov/fire. And we have a blog called Fireline, and that's where we're updating this information as well. And then thank you for advancing the slide. And yeah, so reporting fires, and of course, we want people to call 911 if there is a fire or see someone who's setting a fire. And there's a 1-800-55-ARSON. This is a arson tip line to report if you see something that is suspicious or have information on a fire. They're always looking to to gather some more information on that. And let's see, I think that's it for that piece. And so the next slide, please. And I just want to follow up, and it was already mentioned earlier. I know Kenya mentioned that all of these COVID-19 test sites going on, and the fire department is involved in working at all of these as well. So the brand new one is Chief South High School, but Rainier Beach High School, I was just at that site on Friday, and there's a lot of capacity to have more folks coming through that one. So again, encourage people to sign up, register, to get tested. Also, in that one right now, even folks can just walk up. Right now, they can get people in who are just walking up to that one, if calling is a barrier for any reason. So, and again, insurance isn't necessary. They don't check immigration status. There is language line is available, and they have some materials in several languages as well. So I think, is that next slide, please? So those were some of the things we wanted to highlight, and we wanted to thank you again for letting us be here. And if there are any questions, I'll be around for a little bit.
Thank you very much, William, for that informative and potentially life-saving information. We do have a question for you in the chat feature about the P-patch fire arson. If there are any updates, are you familiar with that? It's from Mike Dean. He said that is at the end of a bus line across the street from Community Center. I don't have a location.
No, the Richmond. I was wondering if the Richmond Community Market was there, but if it is, that's at the end of the bus line. Those are two separate things. We also had the P-patch people on, so I wasn't sure if they knew the answer to that either.
I'm not familiar with. I don't have any information about that. New information about that. The fire that was set there. Maybe let's see. I'm just gonna look quick, but anyways, I don't have any information on that.
I might ask.
I'll check out the blog.
Sure, I might ask Mike if Kenya, Freddie, or if you're still on the line. Would you have any information on that, or we're happy to always get back to you, Mike, on that question?
Great, thanks.
Thanks, Patty. I'm wondering, I missed the question. However, I can talk on behalf of the community and their plans to move forward, if that's helpful.
Sure, just a brief little update from the community would be wonderful.
Sure. If people aren't aware, the Bradner Unisex restroom was destroyed in the fire. And it was a beautiful public amenity that served so many people beyond the gardeners and visitors to the park, like mail carriers, police, FedEx, blah, blah, blah. Bradner community is determined to rebuild what was lost, and they'll work closely with our department, the Department of Neighborhoods, as well as the Parks Department to make it happen. They do have a building recovery fund and asking that donations go to their fiscal sponsor, which is GROW, and we can share that information if you'd like.
I think for any specific information, if anyone would like to email us, we're happy to get that to you via email. If you want to email COVID-19 community webinars at seattle.gov, that way we can get you the most current and up-to-date information. Thank you, Kenya. Are there any other questions for William from Seattle Fire Department? You can hit *6 on your phones to unmute, *3 on your phone to raise your hand, or you can use the virtual raise your hand feature on your computer and unmute your microphones. I don't see any additional questions. Oh, I thought I saw a hand raised from a Flor, but I believe she may have lowered her hand already.
No, I didn't.
Oh,
it was
okay.
a mistake. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. Okay. Mike, per your question on Portland Lou, I think we might need to get back to you on that. I don't know if Kenya has any information on that, but we're happy to research and get back to you.
That's fine. It just I see a bunch of.
I appreciate you keeping us on our toes all the time.
I see a bunch of bathrooms that have a lot of damage to them, and Portland Loos are built differently and probably less likely for that to happen.
Right. Well, thank you. Well, if there are no other questions for William from Seattle Fire Department, William, I want to thank you for your presentation and for taking the time to speak with us today.
No, it was my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oof, I apologize. My microphone was muted. Thank you, William, for your participation. Now I'd like to go to the Office of Sustainability and Environment, where we are joined by Alyssa Patrick and Jimena Fonseca Morales. I believe our first topic is Environmental Justice Fund and by Jimena. Jimena, are you there?
Yes, thank you, Patty. This is Jimena. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Great. Well, hi, everyone. It's great to be in this virtual space with you all. I'm excited to share a little bit more information about the Environmental Justice Fund. As Patty mentioned, my name is Jimena Fonseca Morales, and I'm the program coordinator with the Equity and Environment Initiative at the Office of Sustainability and Environment. Can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. So the Environmental Justice Fund is a grant program that seeks to support projects that address environmental issues and are led by and benefit Black, Indigenous, and people of color, as well as immigrants, refugees, individuals with low incomes, youth, and elders that live, work, worship, and play in the city of Seattle. This year, however, we do recognize that COVID-19 is impacting these same communities in ways that we're just beginning to understand. And we hope to support ongoing efforts or new efforts that address COVID-19 impacts and are connected to community and environmental health. Next slide. Before I dive into that first bullet you see there, I did want to express much appreciation to the Environmental Justice Committee, which we work closely with. The EJC is comprised of individuals from communities that are most impacted by environmental issues and to better connect community-led solutions with the city of Seattle and inform our environmental work. And it is the EJC that we work in close collaboration with to oversee the Environmental Justice Fund. So they are actually members who make up the review committee. But in terms of eligibility, the fund is available to community-based organizations as well as community groups that have 501c3 status or have a fiscal sponsor with 501c3 status. Individuals, unfortunately, are not available to apply. But in terms of what the fund does support, we know that communities who are experiencing these impacts have really great solutions. And so the fund is not meant to be restricted or prescriptive in any way. We welcome projects that vary from capacity building to ongoing visioning to supporting community education and outreach, as well as collaboration, or really any other effort that addresses climate and community health. Can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. So this year, I want to express much appreciation also to our colleagues at the Office of Planning and Community Development. Thanks to a match of $250,000, we're able to grant a total of $500,000 this year. And proposals will, the range of funding will be from $10,000 minimum to $60,000 max per proposal. And the timeline to apply. So the application officially went live earlier this week. We do have 2 upcoming informational sessions that will be taking place on Thursday, September 10th and Monday, September 14th. We do encourage you all to attend and also share that these 2 virtual sessions are happening. It will be just another great opportunity to connect with myself and fellow staff of the program and ask any questions that you may have. And interpretation will be available. So we do have an RSP link and we encourage folks to let us know there if there are any interpretation needs ahead of time so that we can make sure that is available. Something that you'll see here are the virtual presentations, which will be, oh, I apologize. I should mention the applications close on September 25th. And as part of the application process, applicants will have an opportunity to share a little bit more about their proposals with our grant making committee, which I mentioned are members of the Environmental Justice Committee. So that will be happening in October. And we anticipate informing applicants of the funding decisions in early to mid-December. Can I have the next slide? Thank you. So again, I would encourage you all to visit our website. It's seattle.gov/environment/EJ-Fund for the link to the actual application, the RSVP to the 2 upcoming info sessions. And there's also a lot of really great information in the Environmental Justice Fund guidelines, which are linked on these slides as well as in the application itself. And of course, we also do welcome you to reach out to us. Our email is equityenviro@seattle.gov. And if you have any questions about a project that you would like to perhaps submit or are thinking about submitting to the fund, we encourage you to send us an email. You can also reach us at 206-615-0817. One more thing I just want to mention is that there is information available on our website in different languages, including Korean, Spanish, Somali, Tagalog, Tigrinya, Vietnamese, and traditional Chinese at the moment, and more will be offered or uploaded in the coming week. And if folks have any questions, I'm glad to answer them now.
Thank you, Jimena. If anyone has any questions for her, you can hit *6 to unmute or use the chat feature. We do have a question from Mike D. Match requirements, insurance, permission, question mark. I think he's asking, what are those or are they required?
There are no match requirements for this fund. I'm not quite sure what you mean by permission.
The community matching fund said you had to have like permission from landowners and stuff like that.
Yeah, so if proposals are for projects that are taking place on land that is not owned by the organization or the community group, then yes, we would need some sort of letter that states that there is permission for that project to take place.
And then there was insurance requirements.
I will have to get back to you on that one. I don't want to misinform you.
Like liability and stuff. Thank you.
Thanks.
And anyone is free to email them at equityandviro@seattle.gov as well to ask those questions. Are there any other questions for Jimena? Seeing none and hearing none, I think we're going to continue with her colleague, Alyssa Patrick. There will be an opportunity for more questions at the end. We do have a Q&A portion. I just want to point that out as well. So, Alyssa, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks. So I was going to, I am sharing about the Community Food Fund. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. This is a fund that's available because of the CARES Act coronavirus relief funds, and it is to support Black, Indigenous, and people of color and immigrant and refugee-led food programming and partnerships that were formed or expanded in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And this is offered through a partnership with United Way and the City of Seattle. So the grant is being administered by United Way, and that's where the application is as well. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. The grant review team will prioritize these types of programs that are listed here: home delivery, grab and go, some small scale farming, as well as other food security strategies. And there is a person, like, if you don't see your, if you're working on anything that's providing food to folks in a more grassroots way, it's possibly eligible. So you can go to the next slide. There is $600,000 available in total for this grant, and each proposal can receive up to $50,000. The applications are due on September 11th, and there's one more technical assistance office hour on the 10th. These funds do have to be spent by December 30th, and that's due to the requirement because these are federal funds that are going through the city and county. So that's that requirement. Some of what you request can be applied retroactively to like past costs that you've had to incur in some cases. So that's just something to keep in mind. And if you go to the next slide, yeah, that's where the application is. And if you have any questions, Kadist Winters at United Way King County is the main contact who can answer more specific questions. I'm also happy to answer what questions I can, and just wanted to say food banks are not eligible for this funding because there's a Seattle Food Bank Fund that is being administered through Solid Ground through a formula-based system. And so if you're not one of the food banks, or if you know a food bank that did not receive that funding, you could reach out to Kadist to talk to them about whether or not you might be eligible for this funding as well. So that's just the kind of high level overview I wanted to give there. Are there any questions now, or I have one other thing to share?
Alyssa, I think if you can continue sharing, we'll just capture all questions at the end for you.
Great. Okay, so then if you can go to the next slide. The Pandemic EBT is a one-time benefit for groceries for families that have children enrolled in K through 12 schools. So, and I've shared about this benefit before, but I wanted to bring it up again because originally the application deadline was was the end of this month, but it's been extended. So just as a reminder to folks who haven't heard about it yet, this benefit, the maximum benefit is $399 per child, and that has to do with when you became eligible for free and reduced price meals. And eligible families can receive this benefit regardless of citizenship or immigration status. It is not considered in public charge considerations, so that's something to be aware of. And if you can go to the next slide. Families who do not receive basic food or SNAP, also known as food stamps, if any families that do not receive that benefit or not enrolled in that benefit, but do have children enrolled in K through 12 schools who are eligible for free and reduced price lunch, they need to apply for this benefit. So the application is available at washingtonconnection.org, or you can call that phone number at the State Department of Health and Services. I can't remember the Social Services and Health. The application is open until September 11th, like I said. And there is also an application guideline for anybody that, if you're an organization that's maybe helping families walk through this application, I wanted to let you know that that's available, and you can, my information is at the end for you if you want to email me to get that information. I wanted to just mention here that the application does have a couple places where it asks for social security numbers and driver's license, and it is not required for the applicants to fill that information out. So that's just what this graphic says, and I just wanted to clarify that for folks, because I know that might be confusing if people thought they didn't need to share that information. And the truth is that they do not need to share it. And then any families who do receive basic foods or SNAP should have already received a Pandemic EBT card in early July. And if you didn't, you can call the State Department that's managing this at that same phone number that's on this PowerPoint slide. And you can go to the next slide. So I just wanted to highlight that there is also information about Pandemic EBT in several different languages in a couple different spots. If you want the application guide, you can email me. And I also just wanted to encourage families to apply for free and reduced price lunch, especially if they're newly eligible now that the school year is starting again, just as there's more benefits that might become available through the federal government, and it'll be an easier process if families are already enrolled in those programs. So it's just important to do that and be thinking about that now. Seattle Public Schools has an online form, and so I just wanted to provide a link to that as well. And that's everything for me.
Thank you very much, Alyssa. At this time, I would like to open it up to any questions for Alyssa on the food access portion, or her colleague Jimena. You can hit *6 on your phones to unmute. You can unmute your microphones, or you may type questions into the chat feature. Do we have any questions for Alyssa or Jimena? We do have one from Mike D. This might be for Alyssa. Do you know when the Food Bank CARES Act funding is available?
Yes, I believe that it is already available, and that is happening through a different process that Solid Ground is leading. So if you are with a food bank or know a food bank that has not received that funding, I would recommend reaching out to KIDIST.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions for Alyssa and for Jimena? See none and hear none, I think we are going to continue. Thank you very much. Before we move on, I just want to make just one more, I want to give you all a reminder, please, to mute your microphones on your computers, or *6 on your phones if you're not speaking, to cut back on the background noise for our speakers. In addition, we are also running a little bit ahead of schedule. So depending on how this goes, we might end early, or we might have extra time for questions at the end. Okay, moving on. Now I'd like to introduce Uba Gardhier from the Office of Planning and Community Development. Uba, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about the EDI fund. So next slide.
and the RFP process that's coming up. So we are releasing a $5.8 million available for equitable development, anti-displacement, economic development strategies. And we are releasing that on Monday, and it will be back on September 23rd. Next. One thing that's different this year actually is the projects that are applying for the EDI fund will also be evaluated for how they are supporting communities of color and small businesses that are responding to the COVID-19 impacts. And the EDI initiative is about 4 years old, and the fund started with a one-time $16 million from a sale of City Plaza. And in 2020, we have $430,000 CDBG money and another $435,000 that wasn't used last year, and one time $5 million. So we're releasing 5.8. We also have $15 million for 2020 and 2021 from the sale of Mercer Mega Block. And the 5.2 for this year, we are partnering with the organizations that are in the pipeline to get site control, because that one is for site control. And why is just addressing historic and market inequities in terms of investing in projects and programs that mitigate displacement and increase access to opportunity. And we invest in two different categories, both community capacity to move a brick and mortar through project development, real estate, site acquisition, and all that. Next. So for this year, again, I said 5.8. The funding will be allocated to both existing EDI projects and organizations, as well as new organizations. And here the allocations, the $3.6 million is a multi-year capacity building support for existing projects. We have about 25 projects that we have partnered with to maintain both capacity building and then also time-sensitive capital requests for organizations that are going on under construction, and then a 1.7 million to invest in new partnership that again I said we're going to release in on Monday, last day of August. And then as Jimena talked about, we're partnering with an Office of Sustainability and Environment, and people can apply to that Environmental Justice Fund. Our advisory board asked us to work with the interdepartmental groups that we work with that are already doing this type of work. And then finally, we are also partnering with the Seattle Together to support communities, artists, and creatives facing the impacts of COVID-19, economic insecurity, and other inequities through mini grants. And this is a collaboration between city departments and community working to build a future for Seattle where BIPOC communities feel connected, rooted, and recognized. Next. So the priority areas for that $1.7 million is investing in BIPOC infrastructure. Each award will be up to $50,000. And the BIPOC infrastructure, what we mean by that is intended to support organizations that are exploring alternative models of social delivery that are intended to be built around grassroots assets and governance. And then the second bucket of that is COVID-19 crisis response and recovery. Again, this funding is intended to provide support for organizations and people who have been impacted. And these have to demonstrate deep community connections and leadership and organizing against both recent racialized inequities and the health impacts that we are seeing. And the focus on this will be health, displacement, economic, and social impacts that align with the EDI equity drivers. And then the last one is around economic recovery, disaster gentrification. And this funding is intended to support community organization develop strategies for utilizing future investments and rebuilding resources, as well as how to identify and prioritize community institutions that are now in danger of economic displacement and predatory land grabbing. Next. Here is the quick timeline. Again, we're releasing it next Monday. We are working on both recorded webinar and 3 to 4 different webinars. We're trying to figure out what works for everyone. We're going to have a 7 a.m. And webinar. We're going to have a midday webinar after 7 p.m. just to have it accessible to folks. And then this is a really quick and 2-page LOI with a budget. So folks have a little bit less than a month to work on that. And it closes on the 23rd. We have an external review committee meeting who's going to meet and make those recommendations between October 7th through the 19th. And then we will do the final decisions by end of November. Mid-November, end of November. Don't ask me with like that kind of timelines where sometimes we don't know internally how we make decisions on time. And then the contracting process is going to start between November and December, with the contract period being January 2021 to December 2021.
Thank you very much, Ush. At this time, I'm going to open it up for any questions for her and the Equitable Development Initiative Fund. You can hit *6 on your phones to unmute, or you can unmute your microphones. Again, you may also use your chat feature.
So it's going to be, I see Mike D. I don't know what TLA was, but the LOI is letter of interest, 2 pages with about 4 questions.
Okay, TLA is 3-letter acronym.
I'm sorry, Mike, I don't think we heard you.
Oh, sorry. TLA is 3-letter acronym.
That I said?
I'm sorry. I wasn't sure if you had said a 3-letter acronym there or if I just misheard it, but you clarified it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, for your question. Again, you can hit *6 to unmute. You can type in your question in the chat feature. Are there any other questions for Uba at this time?
Hi, yeah, this is Wang Wang. Hi, Uba. I'm wondering if you can give us an example of like maybe a previous awardee or grantee, or an example of a project.
That's a good question. So the last 2 years, we have awarded projects like, so it's like I said, a brick and mortar project that has to meet 3 out of the 6 equity drivers for EDI. And most of the projects normally meet mitigating displacement. And with mitigating displacement is all residential, cultural, and commercial displacement. Doing something around economic mobility, and then building the local cultural assets of those communities. And an example will be the Rainier Beach Food Innovation District. So that's the project. And the capacity building normally we do is about $75,000 for the project to move in a project. So the organization to move a project. And then we work on the deliverables through the contracting. So each contract is different deliverable. Some folks just use it to pay staff time. Some folks use it to put together, for example, the Multicultural Community Center put together in a governance structure, and and different organizations use their capacity building for the needs that they have at the time. Another example of a project that we have funded just for capacity building is the Lake City Collective in Lake City. And then they were just like really forming as an organization there, because there's just lack of a lot of BIPOC-led organizations there that meet the needs of the communities. So we worked with them to just put their 501c3 together, time for the coordinator and the community engagement piece. So it's different depending on what people apply for.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wei Wei, for that question. Are there any other questions for Uba? Lake City Partners from Mike D.
Lake City Collective.
Okay, so that's maybe a
It's an
different group then.
organization. It's an organization, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Uba, I want to thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Now I think we will be moving on to the Q&A portion of our webinar. We are fortunate to have someone from the Office of Housing on the line. If anyone has any housing questions, we do have someone who is able to answer those. Or any questions from any presentation you saw. Should the presenter no longer be on the line, we are happy to get a message to them and get a response to people at a later time. Again, you can hit *6 on your phones to unmute. You can type in your questions. Do we have any questions on anything, really? We have a question, current eviction information from Mike D. I'm going to see if Daniel Murillo. Daniel, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Hi. Welcome,
Hi.
and thank you for joining us. Do you have any information on this?
I do not, other than, as you know, the current moratorium at the state has continued through October 15th. I believe the mayor has extended hers to the end of the year, if I'm not mistaken. Although I will correct that if I am.
I apologize, Daniel. You sound a bit muffled. Is there a way you can maybe get closer to your microphone?
Sure. Is this better?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Okay, no problem. Excuse me. So the governor's moratorium has been extended through October 15th. Part of that extension included the convening of a task force to be seated by September 15th to look at various aspects of that. However, until October 15th at least, the provisions of that will continue. The moratorium for the city continues. I believe it continues through the end of the year, although I could be mistaken about that, and I apologize if I am. So bottom line, I think we'll know more after hopefully sometime in early October as it relates to if there'll be any extensions, any changes. One of the changes specifically called out in the continuing moratorium directive from the governor is a review of rental increases. So I would imagine that will be a topic of discussion for this task force that is seated. So not much new information other than what has been reported, but as soon as there's anything new or additional that we can report, I will make sure to come back to one of these webinars and present that information.
Thank you, Daniel. You know, the Office of Housing is an invaluable resource to this webinar. Do you have anything, a general update that you might want to share? I don't know if you do. I don't want to put you on the spot, but we always love having you on the webinar.
Sure. Nothing. I guess the only thing that I would mention is some of you may have all seen about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago an announcement by the mayor regarding the award of levy funding for permanent supportive housing for our unhoused population. This program and this NOFA, Notice of Funding Availability, will result in approximately 600 units of new permanent supportive housing for homeless individuals. And the hope and the goal is to have those come online by the end of next year, which is a very significant task and will be a significant accomplishment when completed. So that's one of the most significant updates at this point that we have. And we look forward to partnering with various developers of this housing to provide, we all can, we in housing understand that the way to permanently end homelessness is to provide housing. And so we want to play a role in that endeavor.
Thank you, Daniel. Are there any other questions for either any of the speakers or any content you saw today, or anything related to anything that we can maybe either help answer or get back to you?
Hi, this is Wang Wang again, and I just wanted to thank Mike D for your comments and question in the chat box in regards to updates on police chief and from the mayor and city council. We will try and look into that and see if we can get you some updates in some future webinars. So I'm sorry, unfortunately today we don't have anyone on the call who can address that, but we will work on bringing someone on in our future webinars. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Wang Wang, for that update. Last chance for any questions. I don't believe we have any. Seeing none and hearing none, I think we are going to wrap up early today. May I have the next slide? So we'd like to help you, the community, stay informed and stay connected. There are a couple items that I would like to highlight for you. In order to reduce climate pollution, prevent soil and underground water contamination, and improve air quality, the Seattle City Council passed a law to help phase out oil heat by 2028. The tax was supposed to go into effect fall of 2020. However, the City Council has passed an amendment to the heating tax ordinance, and the new effective date will be September 1st, 2021. Please be aware that no heating oil provider should be charging this tax prior to the new effective date in 2021. If you have questions about the heating oil tax or the delay, you may contact Christine Bunch of the Office of Sustainability and Environment. Her email is christine.bunch@seattle.gov, and her phone number is 206-615-1633. We do have an announcement on upcoming changes to this webinar. As the impacts of COVID-19 continue to grow and shift, we will be adjusting our community outreach webinar to better meet the needs of our community. For now, this webinar will be on pause, and we will announce the next webinar date in September. When it returns, the webinar will continue to bring our regional community the latest information on COVID-19 and highlight the incredible work of community members, groups, and organizations working at the forefront of the recovery effort. We look forward to connecting again soon. If you have any questions or would like to provide any feedback, you can email us at our COVID-19 community webinars at seattle.gov or call 206-684-0464. I would like to thank all of our presenters today for taking the time to share with us valuable information. I would also like to thank all of you, the public, who are on these calls every other week with us, helping us get information out to the public in a timely and orderly fashion. You can help us improve these webinars in the future by providing feedback through the survey that is shown on the slide in front of you. These webinars are recorded and available on the Seattle Department of Neighborhoods blog at frontporch.seattle.gov. However, if you would like to receive a copy, you can email us or call us. Thank you, everyone, for your time. I just want you to know that this webinar, is a labor that we do for the public. We do this for you. So we encourage you to fill in the survey, encourage you to reach out to us. We want and appreciate any and all feedback possible. Thanks, everybody, speakers, presenters. The webinar is now concluded. Have a wonderful weekend.